Several players lit up Ohio State's Pro Day, leaving a lasting impression on NFL scouts.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up and stay energized. And during today's show, joining us for the entirety of the show, it's my favorite NFL draft analyst. He is an NFL draft analyst and college football analyst for A to Z Sports. He also does his draft content over at the A to Z Film Room with him and Joe DeLeon talking trash on a regular basis, but also breaking down the draft prospects leading up to the NFL draft. That thing goes around 365, too. It's not just like draft time. They do that thing all year round. It's my favorite NFL draft analyst. Once again, it's Ryan Roberts. And Ryan, in the middle of this week, Ohio State had their pro day. It's an annual event that gets a lot of eyeballs this year. I believe the number was 142 NFL personnel were there. About 5 coaches, 6 GMs. Maybe that number's flip-flop, but there was a lot of people there to make some very big decisions watching the guys at Ohio State. And the one word that I believe I could use to describe Ohio State's pro day is successful. From Will Howard to even Miyan Williams being there working out. Everybody there, I believe, did what they're supposed to do and had a successful day.
Well, and it's a great event annually because obviously Ohio State is one of the best in terms of developing NFL talent for the next level. But also, Jay, this is a big year because there are some people believe that they could break the record of like most players drafted in a single NFL draft as well. So like a lot of talent on display, which makes sense that there's a lot of people there. I think successful is a great word because we had some like redemptive arcs with like a Will Howard after his combine performance. We had someone like Emeka Egbuka just kind of verify everything that we already knew. We had some guys like Josh Fryar, for instance, that like showcase athleticism that will maybe make you go back and watch the tape a ton, right? So a lot of different storylines at the event for what is always a great event. And I'm excited to talk about it, man, because there's a lot to digest, honestly. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast just talking about Jordan Hancock and the historical numbers that he put up at the event. You know what I mean? Like it was a great event, and I think successful is a very appropriate word for what we saw from the Ohio State Buckeyes team.
Ryan, normally we don't go to a player that you mentioned right away, but you mentioned Jordan Hancock, and I think for a guy that came in at one position, but became kind of a Swiss Army knife for Ohio State's defense, going from possibly being a better outside corner than people thought he was going to be, but didn't really play on the outside, play the nickel corner spot, play some deep safety. And no matter where they put him on the football field, he was very successful. Once he got past some injuries, it was clear that you couldn't take him off the field. And for him to run, I believe it was a 4.42 40, and then to test off the charts and then do some stuff on the field. Yeah, Will Howard and Egbuka, they're going to get their praise. The guys that killed the bench press, they're going to get their praise. But I think Jordan Hancock was kind of the X factor, the unsung hero of the defense that showcased his talent earlier this week at the Pro Day.
Well, and he's such an interesting player because I remember in the summer, I think we may have talked about it when I went on in the summer. Like, I liked Jordan Hancock in the summer. I was like, okay, there's a lot of, like, it didn't shock me that he jumped 41 and a half inches because I watched his film and I'm like, that dude's athletic. Like, he's a super athletic dude, right? But I didn't think he was quite as good this year as he was in 2023. Like, I thought 2023 was a little bit more consistent. It's funny, like him and Denzel Burke, I thought was kind of the same, right? Like Denzel was also very good in 2023. And then I thought he was kind of just very middling in 2024. Same thing with Jordan Hancock. But like the question that people are going to ask themselves now with Jordan Hancock is after that testing, it's like a surefire he's going to get drafted. Like he'll get drafted just all based upon his athletic traits and the production he did have as a 2-year starter as a nickel. But the question that people are going to ask Jay, and I've already heard it a little bit, what position is he best at? Right? Because he played nickel out of necessity to a degree, right? Like they had good outside corners. So it's like, okay, we need to get this guy on the field. Let's put him in there. So, but I think that some teams are now going to have the conversation of, is he an outside corner? Is he a nickel full-time? Is he a safety? Like, there's a lot of different realities for Jordan Hancock, and I'm interested to see how teams ultimately see him because I don't think that it is on accident that although he tested phenomenally, he didn't do any of the short area stuff, right? Like he didn't do the 3-cone, he didn't do the short shuttle. And those things are obviously very important for a nickel position, right? A player that has a two-way go and needs to mirror match and do all those types of things. I'm interested if a lot of teams see him as an outside corner because he has the length, he has the long speed, he has the explosiveness to play outside. I think he'll get drafted for sure after this event, especially. But I'm very interested to see just how some teams see Jordan Hancock on the next level positionally.
What position do you think will be the best for him to play in the NFL?
I think short term he should just so he's going to be a day 3 pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that short term you play him on special teams and you figure that out, right? It's kind of like my cop out answer. My real answer is I think he's an outside corner. Right? Like, I think he's an outside corner. I really do. Although he didn't play it much, except early on in his career, and he played nickel the last couple years, I really think that skill set, because he weighed in at, was he 6 foot 1 1/8, 186 pounds. He had 31 and 6/8 inch arms, right? 31 and 5/8 inch arms, and he's over 75-inch wingspan. And he ran 4.42 and he had 41.5 inch short. That to me is an outside corner. Like that profile, that size profile. And the fact that I would also say he's physical, but I don't think that he's a change of direction dude. I think he's a open up, turn and run kind of dude, right? So I want to play that guy more on the outside. I think a team experimenting with outside corner would be very interesting for Jordan Hancock long term.
Let's go with the guy whose last name starts with the letter H, just like Hancock. Let's go to number 18, the quarterback. Because you mentioned it, I don't know if you mentioned it now or late previously, but he didn't do that well at the combine, throwing the football. And you were there in Indianapolis, so you got to not only see it, you got to hear people discuss it afterwards, people that make these big decisions. So following that up with what he did at the pro day and doing just basically being the same media guy that he's always been, being very personable, being someone that says the right things, has a smile on his face, kind of just has the personality of somebody that you would want to lead your offense. Now, I don't know if his skill set's going to translate to QB1 in the NFL. I think they're both on the same page about him maybe being a career backup, still making a lot of money. But I think the pro day for him, not only, I think was successful in a big way because he was very accurate throwing to the guys that he threw to all season long.
Yeah, I think that it's a trap sometimes to throw at the combine. It's a trap. And for him, look, he is a day 3 quarterback more than likely. So he has to throw at the combine. It's not like he is Cam Ward that could just be like, hey, I'm going first overall. I don't have to throw. Like, I just don't have to. Will Howard should throw at the combine. Now, Will Howard had a very poor showing at the combine, but I expected him to be a lot better here, Jay, because a couple things you said, right? He knows these guys. He knows Emeka Egbuka. He knows G. Scott. Like, he knows Carnell Tate was running routes. Like, he knows these guys. He knows them. So his timing was a lot better. He was a lot crisper. I think they had him at I think he threw 65 passes. He completed 63 of them, and the 2 that weren't completed were dropped, I think was what I read. So he was crisp. He was on time, and he was clearly comfortable. And that matters for a quarterback, ultimately, right? But you wanted to see after the poor combine showing, can he go back into another setting and then throw the ball better? And he was much better in Columbus this time around than he was in Indianapolis. So it was good to see. He's an easy kid to root for, right? Like, he's an easy kid. He was an under-recruited kid that went to Kansas State, had to take his lumps, was passed up a couple times for starting jobs, eventually won the starting job, and then eventually ends up winning a national championship at Ohio State. So he's an easy guy to root for. I do think he's a backup on the NFL level. I don't see a projection to a starter, but he showcased the floor that we always talk about. The fact that when he's comfortable and he's in rhythm, he's pretty good. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's an easy guy to root for. All those things tell me that he'll probably last in the NFL for a decent amount of time as a solid backup in the NFL.
From Hancock to Howard to Emeka Egbuka. After the break, Ryan and I are going to dive into Emeka Egbuka, some of the measurables, and just what he did to possibly raise his draft stock. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. So, Ryan, you and I have been high on Egbuka for quite a long time. I think it's very easy when you watch him play football to see that he's a first-round talent. And I have not looked at a mock draft recently, so that's your expertise to kind of fill in where he might fall in the draft. But just based off the pro day where he tested very well, ran like you expected him to run, caught the passes like you expected him to look running the routes, he was himself. He was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this event was made for a guy like him. Just showcase all of his talents on his home turf. And while there's 140 plus NFL people there, they're all walking away saying, we got to try and get that guy.
Yeah, he probably has the highest floor of any receiver in this class, right? Like he's the all-time leading receiver at Ohio State. He's been productive multiple years at Ohio State. He's gone over 1,000 yards twice in his career. Like he's a very productive player when he's been healthy at Ohio State. The only 2 years ago was the anomaly to that when he was banged up. He's a really easy evaluation, Jay. And sometimes easy evaluations are boring to people. Some people are going to look at Emeka Egbuka and be like, I know Emeka Egbuka, he's good. And it's just like, they don't want to talk about it because his style is not one where you get like super juiced up because he's not making like these crazy contested catches outside and he's not running 4-2, and people get bored of him. But you know what's not boring? A guy that's probably going to catch 70 plus passes most years and have probably 1,000 yards every single year is at least a high end number 2 on the NFL level, at least, right? And that's what Egbuka is. And shocking, he looked good running routes. I am so shocked. I say so sarcastically. He's such a good route runner. He understands how to set people up. He understands how to attack blind spots. He understands how to settle against zone coverage when he sees those types of things. Like, he's going to be a good NFL receiver. There might be a guy or two in this class that have higher upsides than Emeka Egbuka, but if I'm a team in this draft in the first round, late first round, especially on a playoff team that's like, hey, ceilings are awesome, but I'm in a winning window. I want to go win a Super Bowl, right? I probably want Emeka Egbuka over a couple of these wide receivers that we're going to continue to kind of fall in love with ultimately, right? So Emeka Egbuka to me is about as easy evaluation in this class. Is he going to be a superstar? Probably not. Is he going to be a Pro Bowl every single year? Probably not. But again, he's probably going to catch 70 to 80 passes most years and go over 1,000 yards more often than not, right? Like, this kid's just going to be a good wide receiver on the next level. And he was an underrated athlete. And he showed that he was an underrated athlete. 4.48 in the 40, 38-inch vert. And I had a buddy that was standing next to him after he ran the 4.48, and apparently he was like kind of disappointed that he didn't run faster, right? So like, he is a good athlete. He's been an underrated athlete by some people, but he checks every box. He's a really tactical player, and he's going to be a good NFL receiver. If he does not have at least 2,000 to 3,000 yard seasons in the NFL as at least a high end number 2, I would be very, very surprised.
Let's go back to the defensive side of the ball. I would like to go a little bit longer on him, but there's just so many guys that worked out this week to try to touch on. You mentioned that Jordan Hancock is probably a day 3 pick, which that's not a knock against him. I think he's a special teams guy and can play. He could probably start 4 or 5 years in the NFL. I think Lathan Ransom, though, is a guy that could. I don't know if a day 1 starter is the right thing for him, but I think eventually he'll start. Not knowing the medicals for him at the combine or the pro day, or if they even are able to check at the pro day, I'm unsure about what the message was and what the results were of some of those tests. I think it's very valuable for him, just like Travion Henderson. Those types of tests are very important. But Lathan Ransom's another guy. Like, the on-field drills are great. You're doing a lot of the same movements you do on the field. but he is another guy that's just a team guy, a guy that's a good character person, and I believe did some good things at the pro day.
He did. He ran 4.53 at 203 pounds, 36.5-inch vert. He did 20 reps on the bench, 10-1 broad. Like, all his numbers were pretty good across the board. Jay, we've been talking about Lathan Ransom for years. The greatest thing about this time of year is that people always say, like, the medical side of things, and it's very important, right? This time of year, if I haven't heard anything, it's usually a good thing, right? Like, that's usually a good thing. Usually the only time you hear something about medicals is when a guy didn't have good medicals or they got red flagged. You know what I mean? Like, that's the bad part. I haven't heard anything negative about Lathan Ransom, and I will put my reputation on the line for a Lathan Ransom in this regard. If that kid is not a core team, dominant special teamer that starts some games in the NFL, I will be shocked. He was kind of more athlete early on in his career, but this past year especially, man, I don't know where this physicality came from. Like,
right?
He was laying dudes out though this year, man. I feel so strongly about Lathan Ransom sticking in the NFL as long as the injury stuff doesn't plague him throughout his career, because he's going to play special teams. He's going to be physical. He's going to do everything that a team asks him to do. I mean, just think about how many roles he had at Ohio State, man. Like, because there were points where, you know, when he had what was 14's name that plays with the Cleveland Browns now, Hickman, right? Hickman.
Yes, Roddy Hickman,
Ronnie Hickman. When they had Hickman, he was asked to play a little bit more over top because Hickman was more of a box guy, right? Like, he was going to play downhill a lot more. So that Lathan Ransom was asked to do that stuff. And then transitionally, when they were with Caleb Downs this past year, they're playing a lot more too high, but then he's playing down a whole lot more, but like they're rotating a ton. So like he's played so many different roles. He's been a center fielder. He's been a too high guy. He's been a box guy. And while I think that the latter is better for him, like I think he's better towards the line of scrimmage at this point in his career, he's shown that he can do a lot of different things for a team. So this kid strikes me as a player who's going to be a solid starter in the NFL level, but he's going to play core team and he's going to be a special team stalwart and he's going to be a special teams captain. Like, that is who Lathan Ransom, I think, is to me. That's a kid that, barring injury, is going to make it. Like, he's got all that make-it mentality to him that I think he's going to last in the NFL for a decent amount of time.
Ryan, I'm going to ask you a question, but it's going to be kind of pick which one of these surprised you the most, as far as there are three guys at Ohio State that did pretty well with the bench press. Josh Simmons, his video was going around Instagram, but Ty Hamilton had 35 reps at 225 pounds. Keep going down this chart. Josh Simmons had 34 reps at 225 pounds. And then Donovan Jackson had 32 reps at 225. Yep. Which one of those numbers linked to the player surprised you the most?
Josh Simmons, actually. Josh Simmons is my number one offensive tackle in this class. If he was healthy, I think that he is clearly in the top 10 conversation, probably more in like the mid to late first round conversation due to the patella injury, Jay. But he is a power improved this year. He's still more of a finesse player, right? Like, he's a left tackle. His winning is based on movement and length. Like, that's how he wins reps more often than not. Not that he doesn't have any power, but like, I would have guessed he probably have like 25 reps, 26 reps. Like, still not a bad number by any stretch. Like, I mean, mid-20s is still a good number. But the fact that he put up that amount, that tells me that he's been working, man. Even though his movement stuff is a little limited right now, like he's been working on the bench press to get ready for the event. So that kid, I think it's the biggest shame he got hurt, because, I mean, it was good for Donovan Jackson because he got to show a little bit of position flexibility and everything. But Josh Simmons was having a year, right? Like, he was having such a good year. And if he would have finished that out and had like a good showing against Abdul Carter or against James Pierce, like those types of dudes, I think that we'd be talking about him like number 5 to Jacksonville, potentially. Like, you know what I mean? Number 4 to New England. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all about it, man. That kid's super athletic, obviously has some power profile to him as well. Like, he is one of the biggest risers in this class. Before the year, I had like a 4th round grade on him, which I thought was very fair to him based upon the year before that, because he was kind of raw, right? Like, this year, completely different football player. So it was a little shocking that he was in the 30s in the bench press, like, because he's got like 34-inch arms as well, right? And like, that's usually the guys that don't bench as well, the guys that are a little bit longer. But man, he showcased his strength there, and he even showcased a little bit of movement skills. I saw there was at least some videos going around of him just kind of moving around a little bit, and he looks good considering he's only been off for like 5 months now with his patella surgery.
After the break, Ryan and I are going to touch on Donovan Jackson, some of the biggest surprises, from the pro day, and a Buckeye that didn't even play on the 2024 season team that worked out at the pro day. We'll dive into all that after the break. Ryan, daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NC2A tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late watching all the tournament action, and 5-Hour Energy helps me keep up the next day. With longer days, I love getting outside for a quick hike or run. Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. This episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hard-working manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. For small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward. Think ahead and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier takes the lead. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
You mentioned that Josh Simmons is probably, if he were healthy, would be a top 10 pick. Positional need and value is very, very big when talking about where he might be drafted. Donovan Jackson showed off his versatility at a time when people didn't expect him to be as successful as he was moving to left tackle. And I don't know, let's just go away from the pro day right now. I don't know how NFL people are going to value him right now as far as a guard or a tackle, because he has more reps at guard, but he looked really good at tackle when he had to play there this year.
He's such a weird player, and I don't mean weird negatively. Like, I was literally talking about this on a different podcast, I think last week or something, Jay. I liked him at guard, right? I think he's got good film at guard. But he was better at tackle than he was at guard.
He was.
Just flat out. But, like, everything about him, though, says guard. It's like, I understand he's got decent length, but, like his body type is a guard. His demeanor is a guard. He also has played guard more than any other position, obviously, up until this point. So, like, his whole profile says guard, but I do think some teams are going to look at him as a tackle. Like, I think they are. Like, he's a little bit of a shorter, stubbier kind of frame guy. Like, but, like, we've seen more and more of those guys, like the Isaiah Wynns of the world. And, you know, there's been some guys that kind of break that mold a little bit. So I think teams are going to value him as a tackle to a degree. I think there's going to be some that value him at guard. And I think there's going to be some that say, we'll let you fail at tackle before we move you inside the guard. Like, that's going to be some people's ideologies on it. But either way, I think he's got a good chance to go in the back end of the first round, if not very early second round, because it's not a great offensive line class, man. Like, it's just not. And he's a guy that has shown the ability to play multiple positions. And the good thing about him is I feel like he's increasingly just gotten better the last couple of years, right? Like, he's stacked seasons, and he showed that, like, there's still developmental upside there. He's strong. He's physical. He doesn't have off-field concerns. Like, there's a lot to like about a guy like a Donovan Jackson.
Who was your biggest surprise from Ohio State's pro day?
Josh Fryar. I mean, it's not even close, honestly. I mean, because like I said, I think some people would have looked at Jordan Hancock's and been like, "Oh, Jordan Hancock, that's a surprise." But I'm like, I mean, I thought Jordan Hancock was very athletic of a football player. So like, I don't think athleticism was the problem with Jordan Hancock and like the negative stuff that he had at points as far as like bad reps. But like so here's the first one. I did not think that Josh Fryar had 34 plus inch arms. I was shocked to see that. I'm like, he's nearly 6'5", 318 pounds, has almost 35-inch arms. I was shocked to see that. But then Jay, like, he ran 509 in the 40, which is a good number, but like his 10-yard split of 169 is incredible. Like, that's incredible. Then he has a 34-inch vert. Then he had a 811 broad. His short shuttle and 3-cone were pretty good numbers too. Like, it's just like, if you ask me if you ask my scouting reporter, Josh Fryar, it would read something like this. He is a physical, try-hard blocker that is probably better suited inside, but had to play right tackle the last couple years for Ohio State out of necessity. Like, that would have been somewhat of how it read, right? I don't know. Is Josh Fryar an athlete on film? Like, I don't think he is. Like, I think he's a really physical dude. Like, there's good things to like about him. There's a reason that I think he'll be in a camp and he has a chance to find a team potentially. But, like, I now need to go back and watch the film with Josh Fryar because I feel like I saw a completely different person test than what I saw on film. I did not think that he was going to be that type of athlete. 34-inch vert, like, I did not see that. Did not see that coming at all.
Just to compare his, was it 10-yard split? You mentioned the 169?
169, yeah.
So I'm looking at the chart now. Ty Hamilton's 10-yard was 170.
Yep.
Keep going down. G. Scott Jr. was 164, and Tyleik Williams was 174. So you're basically saying, I know you're splitting hairs here, but for him to be that close to G. Scott Jr., who's 50, 60 pounds lighter than him, this says a lot about Josh Fryar. I know he's been a workout guy, and the coaches have really been very more than pleased with how he is in summer workouts or winter workouts and things of that nature. He puts the work in. But I'm like you, Ryan. I don't think he's athletic enough to play tackle at all. And so maybe he gets to the next level and he figures out a way to play guard. I still think he's more of a backup long-term than a guy that could be a starter eventually in the first 3 to 4 years he's in the National Football League. But I do think he was playing out of position. Couldn't do enough. I think positionally, Ohio State didn't have another tackle to play on the right side. So you had to keep him at tackle. But the transition to guard is going to be hard if that's what happens in the NFL. But no, I don't think he's athletic enough to play tackle at all. I'm right there with you.
And it's so funny because if I just threw those numbers at you and I didn't put Josh Fryar's name over it, and you probably would assume that'd be like Josh Simmons testing numbers, right?
Yes,
because like Josh Simmons is very athletic, and you're just like, I don't know. I look at those numbers and I say I need to go back and watch again because that I just didn't necessarily see that type of athlete on film because those numbers just in a vacuum on a piece of paper say I could play tackle in the NFL level, but I never once saw Josh Fryar and been like, that's an NFL tackle. And that doesn't mean he can't play, right? Like, doesn't mean he can't stick. I do think there's a world that he goes late round PFA and he sticks on a roster. I would not be shocked if he does that, backing up a couple different spots. I could see it. But those numbers say I could play in the NFL at offensive tackle and maybe even start. And I don't see that on film necessarily. But hats off to him, man. I need to find out whatever facility he's been at because they did an excellent job of training Josh Fryar, to say the least.
One guy that was not on Ohio State's team in 2024 but worked out at the pro day was Miyan Williams. He's a Buckeye favorite. Oh. Ryan, I loved watching that man play football. He had a style of running that I gravitated towards. It's just unfortunate that the injuries and even just him as an athlete and a running back, he just doesn't have the skill set and just the talent to make it to the National Football League. But maybe I could be wrong. He's back at the pro day. He's not on the list of the measurable stuff that we looked at, but him being there is big. Him trying to not stay down after the injury he had during his final year in Columbus and trying to get back to the NFL is great. And Ryan, what do you make of him working out at Ohio State's pro day this year?
I mean, you see it every year at different schools. I remember when I was at Notre Dame a couple years ago and like Asmar Bilal, who started at linebacker for them, was back because he wasn't on an NFL roster. He was just trying to find another opportunity. So you always see some guys kind of trickle back and do that type of stuff. I I don't have any analysis of whether Miyan Williams is going to stick on an NFL roster, Jay, or if he's going to go off in the sunset, or if he's going to play for the USFL. Like, I have no idea. All I'll say, though, and I know we've talked about this before, I loved watching Miyan Williams play football, man. I loved watching him play football. He was one of those dudes that you knew athletically was not a great athlete. Like, you just knew he wasn't. You knew he was going to run a good 40. Like, he just wasn't. But that dude ran hard, man. Like, he had great contact balance. He ran super hard. So he'll be okay. He'll be okay. I have no idea what his NFL or just professional football career will be, but it's nice to see his name pop up occasionally because I start to think, outside of him running over Notre Dame that one game, though, I kind of keep that out of my memory bank a little bit, but he was a pleasure to watch, man. What a tremendously fun football player to watch on the college level.
Last thing here for you. It's not about a guy that worked out. Well, some guys that worked out, but they're not about to get drafted.
Yep.
I believe Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and Bryson Rogers all caught passes. Now, the first two names played more than Rogers, but I believe all three guys could play big roles for Ohio State this year. What's the importance of young guys that aren't draft eligible being able to work out at a pro day?
I mean, it's just the initial conversation, right? Like, teams see them in person, and that's their first, for a lot of people, and we'll just take a random general manager for a second, right? Like, random general manager from the Houston Texans, Nick Caserio, right? Like, Caserio's there, and for the first time, he sees Carnell Tate run around. Well, when Carnell Tate gets brought up in a scouting meeting now in a few months, he's like, oh, I remember that kid. I saw that kid run in person. I remember what he looked like moving around and running routes and all those types of things. So it's just an early introduction to players. And also during these spring practices, Blesto will come in and they'll do their measurements for the next class as well. So I'm sure that they've already kind of talked to Carnell Tate. They usually talk to the seniors first, but then there's a couple random juniors or guys that are probably most likely going to enter the draft. So I'm sure that some scouts were taking a look at Carnell Tate. I'm sure they were taking a look at Caleb Downs. Like, they're looking at those types of dudes. So I think it's just an early introduction. Anytime you get to showcase your talents, because I expect this time next year to be talking about Carnell Tate in a similar vein, right? Like, he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver more than likely next year, barring injury. Brandon Ennis, I think, is a really interesting one because how many teams could just stick a 5-star wide receiver on the bench for 2 years and he would be okay with it? Like, how many schools could do that, right, Jay? But Brandon Ennis, if you told me Brandon Ennis was a huge breakout star this fall, wouldn't be shocked. I expect Carnell Tate to be the easy number 2 behind Jeremiah Smith, and I expect Brandon Ennis to start to fulfill that 5-star prophecy, right? So it's just an early introduction. General managers get to see him in person. Scouts get to see him in person, and they kind of recollect on what they also see, because every part of this is the evaluation process. You see the guys run around at pro days. You see them all obviously on game film. You see them at the combine. You see them in the all-star circuit. Like, all those things matter when they're doing their final evaluations.
That's Ryan Roberts. He is an NFL draft and college football analyst over at A to Z Sports. I am Jay Stevens, the host of this show. Follow me on Twitter, any social media platform at JStevens07. Follow him on Twitter or X at Rise, the letter N draft as well. We'll both be busy leading up to the draft, but we got spring ball to talk about still. We're going to continue this draft and spring practice conversation all weekend long in the next week, getting you ready for the spring showcase, which sounds like it's going to be more of a scrimmage than something that no one really knows what it's going to be. I love Ryan Date's clarity. I love Ryan Roberts' clarity on Ohio State's prospects, and we'll keep you all updated on the draft and the Buckeyes that are going to get drafted as we move closer to that day later next month.